Welcome to A Grief Observed. I'm your host, Chaplain Kevin Weaver, and we have on our show today with us a Dr. Tregaskes.
You got it.
I got it right, but for the sake of the show and simplicity, Dr. T, welcome.
Works. Sure.
Yeah. Hey, so you're an emergency room physician here with Summit.
Yes, sir.
So give us just a brief history. You don't look very old, so you're
nice
probably not far removed.
I shaved a few days ago to try to look a little younger.
No, that's the look, the stubble.
Yeah.
I do it too, but it's just all white.
Yeah, that's where I am here, so yeah, it makes sense.
So you've only been here in the mountain since July-ish?
Yeah, my wife and I finished residency in July, again, emergency medicine, and started working in Summit first part of August, but moved here in July.
Excellent.
So,
where'd you do your residency?
In Ohio. Dayton, Ohio.
Excellent.
A hospital named Grandview.
Grandview.
Most of the time,
How'd you like Ohio?
I liked a lot about it.
Yeah.
People there, very genuine, good people. The hospital that I served in there was a challenge. It was more inner city, and so we came across a lot of difficult situations. But from a training standpoint, you couldn't ask for a better place to train. It was fantastic. I liked it a lot.
And you're an Arizona-bred guy from Safford.
From Safford, yeah.
So you're a native, I guess.
Yeah.
A native Arizonan. Of the pleasantries, enough of that. We only have a limited time. And what we want to talk today about, keeping with the theme of our program, A Grief Observed, really has to do with preparation. We've been talking just before we began, and it is true, America has become the great death-defying, death-denying society or culture, if you will. In the early 1900s, 80% of all Americans died in their home with a family member by their bedside, and the family, of course, took care of them there. 100 years later, that number is absolutely flip-flopped. 80% of all Americans die in some type of an institution. Pros and cons, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing or a good thing, but the point is that we want to deal with today is we're finding, and talking to you and in my work, we're finding that people just aren't prepared. They won't have the conversations. So people come into an emergency room situation, we can create a scenario, a 90-year-old person, they're in the back of an ambulance, the ambulance attendants, the paramedics bring them into your care. And what are the things you might be looking for as far as preparation?
Right. So from a medical standpoint, obviously there's things that, the medic team has already called in previous to us. They do a great job of letting us know kind of where the patient stands from a health standpoint, if they're critical, not critical. And by the time they reach us, we, have a pretty good idea of what to expect as they come into the door. The other side of that, and this is something you're hinting at too, or going towards, but is what are the plans for this patient's health?
That's it.
What is it? Let me back up. So from a physician's standpoint, what do you want me to do?
Exactly.
Do you want me to try and save this person's life if they're critical? Do you want me to make them comfortable? What would you like me to do?
Exactly, and it sounds like a no-brainer, but it's not.
No.
What do you expect from the doctor? So let's back up a little bit. CPR. It's been around in our country. That's all I've ever known. CPR. Somebody they're not breathing, their heart isn't beating. We do CPR. Is that always effective?
It can be. Certainly the best type of circulation is coming from your own heart, but with CPR, you're trying to stimulate that from the outside of the person's body, and in order for it to be effective, it's a very aggressive
Well, what
treatment.
about grandma, grandpa that's 90 years old and has respiratory problems, congestive heart failure, has a litany of healthcare problems? Now they've cardiac arrested, if you will. What do we want you to do?
Right. And going back to how effective CPR is, certainly you can look at many different types of studies, but I don't know, again, if this is the most appropriate way to say this, but I honestly see, when I think of people's bodies as vehicles a lot of times. And so if you've got a nice, Toyota Tundra coming in that's only 2 years old, when you take it in the shop, there's things that can be done to restore it to a pretty high level of performance, so to speak. So if you have someone who's younger who has a good health history, you can restore a lot of those things. But the challenge is when you've got someone, again, that if you're performing CPR, you're performing life-saving procedures on this patient, you're dealing with what their body currently already does. And so if their cardiac output, so to speak, is already really low to begin with, and now I'm compromising it by, the heart isn't working on its own, and I'm compromising by trying to make the heart work from an external standpoint,
right,
you're already at a point now to where that vehicle or that body is so far below how it needs to perform to have any sort of meaningful recovery.
Right. Meaningful recovery. I'm glad you said that. We're not talking or trying to place any less value on the 90-year-old vehicle. But we're talking about what is going to be effective and what is really realistic for this person as far as now the quality of life that they may or may not have, the chance of survival. I heard one man put it this way: if you're dealing with like the 2-year-old vehicle versus the 90-year-old, it's almost like CPR is being done on the living dead or on the dead. We're not going to change, or you're not going to change what is, has culminated to this point. And so what are the kinds of things you're looking for getting back to people entering the emergency department? Talk to me about advanced directives or DNRs, do not resuscitate.
Right, so when they come in, we hope when they come in they already have paperwork. From the medics are bringing it, or if they're coming from some sort of facility, we hope that they come in with some sort of paperwork that governs exactly what type of treatment that they want to be done. So there may be people that say, yes, CPR, but no intubation, meaning an intubation, again, of putting a tube down the mouth, down into the basically kind of the top of the lungs to where I'm going to help them ventilate. Or some people may be the opposite, where they're okay with intubation or not, CPR. And so there's multiple things that they can specify as exactly what they want us to do. And for me, that's my challenge, is certainly from a personal standpoint, I'll always have my own feelings when someone comes in.
Of course.
But you really throw all those things out the window, because when that patient comes in, I will do, and any physician is going to do whatever they would want me to do. And that's what I want to know. I want to know, what does this patient want? If you want me to do everything in the world, even if it's going to be, I don't want to use the word futile. That's maybe too strong, but
right.
I want to do what you want me to do. Just tell me what it is. And unfortunately, they're not in a position to do that. So you hope they have some sort of documentation that allows me to know what their wishes are.
Again, that is, now we're really getting to the meat of the point. The whole point is having those difficult conversations prior to. Because, truthfully, you're talking about how you didn't have any statistics or reports to read, but I literally read this in a textbook one time, that 1 out of 1 people die. So there is a statistic in writing. And so I think it's important to have those conversations. They're really one of the greatest gifts you can give your loved one, is really letting them know what you want done. Given those difficult situations or those inevitable times, it's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think that's the first place for it to start too. Is, and for some people this might sound more taboo, but you're sitting around, you're having dinner, you're enjoying Christmas, whatever it is, and to be able to have these conversations again regarding, hey, Dad, what would you want? Mm-hmm. What do you want, Dad? If this, not if, it's got to be when.
Right.
When this happens, Dad, and even the flip side of that, because we certainly know that the tragedy can come at a much younger age too. You do have patients that come in with a hemorrhagic stroke, so to speak, at the age of 40, and I think for me the biggest part is that situation. Right, from a physician's standpoint, when you're in that emergent situation where someone is very critical, and I'm looking at these family members, I'm looking them in the eyes, and I say to them, what would your brother want me to do? Right. Because they don't got the paperwork. If they have the paperwork, we're okay. But Absolutely. If they don't have the paperwork, now I'm looking into spouse's eyes, I'm looking into children's eyes, and I'm saying, what do they want? And a lot of times they don't know.
Right.
And so now your family member is in a position to where they're trying to make a decision they don't feel comfortable making, because they want to make the right choice. And they certainly don't want to be responsible for oh yeah, you were the one that said don't do anything.
Right,
And
you're the ones that pulled the plug. Yeah.
so the first place to start, again, if the wheels aren't done or whatnot, is to just starting to have these conversations with your loved ones, with your family members. You got to have these conversations.
And really, the conversations, they may be difficult initially, but you'll find they really are very liberating.
Yeah.
Of course, I work in the field of dying and death, and so these conversations are very
Right.
routine in my
Right.
home. But, they actually kind of take on, I don't know if I would say a joyous nature, but you become comfortable, and it's so empowering to me to know that my family knows what I would want done.
Yeah.
And that is the bottom line, knowing, having the power of the information to know, so that we're not in difficult
Right.
situations.
And I can tell you, even with all the training that I've had to this point, and this may sound strange, but sometimes one of the better parts of my day is when we have a critical patient, when we have a patient who now appears to be terminal at this point. Something has changed for them. And I get a look into a daughter's eyes or a family member's eyes, and I do get to say, what would your mom want?
Right.
And they look right back at me and say, I know my mom would not want this. My mom does not want this. And so then we get to turn the tables and then focus, instead of me doing these life-saving, things that, we haven't even talked about that exactly, what happens to body with chest compressions and how things happen. But,
Right.
but then I can focus their care more towards making their loved one comfortable. And to me as a physician, I wouldn't say it's as rewarding as bringing someone back, but it still is incredibly rewarding to be able to shift that care to, let's just make this patient comfortable now.
Right. Right.
Because we're all going to die.
That's true.
We all die. We all live, we all die.
That's true. Well, Dr. T, our time has just
It's quick, right?
slipped right by. I mean, we've got much more to discuss. Maybe we can take up this conversation at another time. But
Sure.
I like what you said. We're getting ready to kind of shift gears and totally shift gears with our next segment. But how liberating it is, how empowering for an emergency room physician to look into the eyes of a loved one, and they can respond by saying, I absolutely know. And so you can know, have those difficult conversations. You don't have to have a will. Those are always good. It's good to have the paperwork, but even more important than that, just know what they want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to take a break,
Cool.
and we'll see you right back in just a moment. Thanks. Welcome back to Grief Observed. Our next guest on the show with us today is Miss Marty LaMar. Marty's been on before, not terribly long ago, but I wanted to bring her back because we want to take a little bit of a direction, not a different direction, but we want to begin to build on what it is that she does. And she is now the president of Native Women's Scholarship Incorporated. I got it.
Almost.
We'll say it the right way.
Native Women Scholars Incorporated.
Native Women Scholars Incorporated. Okay, give us just a snapshot. What is NWS Inc.?
Our organization is devoted to helping local Native women go to college. My husband and I were retired educators who wanted to make a difference in our community. And we found young women who wanted to make a difference in their own lives and in their community. That's what inspired us to become a nonprofit.
So when we think about grief, we often think about losses that occur along the way, death of a loved one or so on, but we rarely think about those daily losses that are occurring routinely. For instance, in the lives of a lot of these women who have, whether they be financial obstacles, hurdles, whatever they might be. And what I like is, and this is going to be the theme for us, is Marty and her husband wanted to do something to make a difference. They found these girls on the reservation who had some difficult obstacles to overcome. And what they shared in common is they too wanted to make a difference. And so your program began how long ago?
19, listen to me, 2013, we got our first scholar.
Okay.
She's now an employee on the reservation for Johns Hopkins Center for Indian Health.
So there you go. You started, let me do the math, 6 years ago, and
Right.
your first scholar went to nursing school, and she's working.
Our first scholar actually attended NAU
Okay.
and graduated with a public health degree.
Okay, John Hopkins, I just assumed nursing school. Okay, but again, she's back home, she's working, she's making a difference.
That's right.
Is she on here?
No, she's not on
Oh.
here because these are all
Oh, these are
this
current.
year's. These are the current students.
Oh, okay, great.
And there's one on here that not on here, that graduated in December, and she is graduated in education as teaching, but the others, and this one over here just graduated in December, but the rest of them, 3 out of the rest will graduate in the spring.
Okay, so the young lady that we were talking about, your first recipient, what's her name?
Brianne.
Brianne. And what I'm going to try to do is talk these guys into doing a remote down in White River at the Arrowhead Cafe, because we want to bring Brianne on, and we want to talk with her about how this scholarship program made a difference in her life, so in turn she could make a difference in someone else's life. It's really one thing leads to the next, and that's the beauty of the program, overcoming the difficulties and obstacles. So what are some of the obstacles that these young women are facing?
Some of them are young mothers. They've chosen to go back to school, so
Okay.
they have to be involved with their children, plus they have classes. There are others who've suffered some real emotional times in their lives. They've lost a grandmother or a father or someone close to them. And this is really hard for them to keep going to school, keep focused on their studies, and have all these really emotional times happening in their families.
Yeah, we often, and we hear the old adage, life goes on, but oftentimes, especially with young people who are not completely prepared for all of life's challenges. I'm an old person and find myself ill-prepared at times, but we encourage them, you've got to go on, but sometimes the weight is so heavy and so burdensome. How do they go on? And so this is where your program can step in.
This is where our program is different from most scholarship programs. We try to give support in the way of keeping up with the girls by contacting them frequently with text messages, emails. We've gone to see some of them, taking them to lunch or dinner. And right now, I have 3 people who volunteered to be mentors.
Oh, okay.
Who want to give some extra attention to these young women. Just support from someone outside your family can be very meaningful for them and encouraging. Today, I'll go shopping for a care package. There's a student that I know needs some cheering up. She's just had a loss in her family, and I'll be sending her a care package.
Yeah, it's very easy to overlook the need that you folks provide. When my second oldest boy was at U of A in college, it was the care packages. I remember his grandma and grandpa, they lived in Safford, and so they went back and forth to Tucson often, and I'm quite certain, knowing them, that they just found reasons to go so they could bring him care packages. And that it doesn't have to be much, but just that contact, that constant connection. And oftentimes, I don't know if we realized to what extent those care packages were helpful to him. And I'm sure these girls, and we're going to hear from them in the future, I'm sure they're going to testify the value of the care package.
Well, it's pretty exciting, too, to see how much they grow and learn and change. When we first interviewed our first student, Brianne, we were beginning to learn how to interview. And I usually ask the young women, what would your best friends say about you? And this gets them talking and gets us acquainted. We usually see the parents at the interview. We want to make sure that the parents are all in excited about this too and see how important this is, and that the student would have the parent support. There's so much that can be done to support these students.
Sure, sure. Now, the program, of course, is run by a board of directors, and most recently, I'm honored to say that I've been accepted to be one of those board of directors, and I'm thrilled to be a part of this program. So you have board of directors, but are there many? You mentioned the mentors. What things does a mentor do for these girls?
Keep track of them.
Oh,
let
hey,
them know that they're interested. How are you doing? A text message that said, hope things are going well. A care package, a birthday card to remember their birthdays. All of these say, I care, someone else besides your family is cheering you on.
Do you have a need for more?
Yes, we
Mentors?
always have room for more mentors, and we especially need volunteers for June the 8th because it's our only fundraiser.
Okay.
We depend on the fundraiser and on donations to keep the program going.
See, you're way ahead of me, Marty. My next question was going to be, so how do you fund this program? And you've already asked the question, but I'm asking it because it's in my mind to do so. So Marty, tell us, how do you finance this program or fund it?
I'm hoping to get us more on social media.
Sure.
And this program helps to get the word out
Sure.
that there's a great need. There's some wonderful students out there who want to make a difference in their community, and they've shown that. We have one of our graduates as a counselor on the reservation.
Excellent.
With the Rainbow Center.
Excellent.
We have someone else working at White River Elementary School.
Wow.
We have someone who's graduated from MPC Nursing, is taking her bachelor's online and is now working at Haven.
How rewarding.
We have someone else who graduated who's at Blue Ridge School District.
So once the girls have graduated and become successful with the program, is there any kind of follow-up? Is there a continued involvement with them to some degree?
We see them because they're on the
So
reservation.
they're working. Yeah, of course.
And we frequently see them around Arrowhead Cafe. We go to the farm, has a festival day.
What's the farm?
The farm is in Canyon Day.
Oh, okay,
And
okay.
it's a community event and a
Okay,
community
gotcha.
enterprise. There are ways of just going to the tribal rodeo.
True.
We do see them and we do hear from them.
So talk about the event. I think you said June 8th, correct?
June 8th, Mountain Meadows
Okay.
Park in Lakeside. In the afternoon, it's called an Evening of Apache Culture.
Okay.
We're bringing in entertainment. We have the Warriors. We have the Crown Dancers.
Wow.
We have a raffle and a silent auction with some wonderful prizes.
Food?
Food from Arrowhead Cafe, which
Terrific.
is traditional.
Terrific.
We have children's activities. We had a demonstration and a chance for people to try out bow and arrow.
Oh, wow.
We hope to make this bigger every year.
No bungee jumping or zip lining.
Nothing like that. We're trying
You
to
never
keep
know.
it very traditional.
Yeah,
There's also
true.
there will
True.
be an events leading up to June 8th, a whole week called Apache Culture Appreciation Week.
Oh, okay, good.
So we do have some things coming up.
So as you said, this is really your only fundraiser.
It is.
And so really we want to help take this over the top because the funds, they're all local as far as, the girls on the White River Reservation right now. And you begin to appreciate the fruit of giving of these funds because these girls now are working and interacting and living. So we're not just shipping money or people or resources off the mountain. It's here and then it begins to blossom here. So if a person or a family or a group wants to be involved with making a difference with your program, how do they get in touch with you?
They can look at our website, nws-incorporated.org.
Okay.
They can get in touch with me.
Okay.
I don't know if I should give my phone number out, but
We'll tell you what.
They can sign up at June 8th and
There you go.
let us know.
And we'll decide after the show. They'll put the phone number up if you so desire. But
Okay.
I think the website would be adequate. And yeah, folks, if you want to make a difference and really see the fruit of your giving come back to you, this thing is it's already cycling back around. It started 6 years ago. The first recipient, she's involved in her community, living and loving and working. She's involved with making a difference. Marty and her group, you know what? This all started simply because they just wanted to make a difference. And you know what? It's blossoming into something that may be even a little bit bigger than they thought in the beginning. But here we go. It's off and running, and your legacy, your dream is coming to fruition. And Marty, on behalf of your deceased husband, you're carrying the torch, and you folks are making a difference. We're out of time. Gotta go. See you next time on A Grief Observed.